Hey everybody, happy Monday. Welcome to the Wise Guys, the largest BYU sports live stream show in the world and the most watched collegiate sports live stream talk show on YouTube. I'm Dave McCann. Blaine Fowler over there. We are ready to roll.
Here we go. And let's remember, Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, Eddie, and Mountain America Credit Union, and is distributed by the Deseret News. Watch for this week's new podcast tomorrow, wherever you get your podcast. We're so grateful to these sponsors who have kept us up and running all this time. And for all of you out there, this is free to you because of them.
That is right, and we want to encourage you to subscribe to our free email at wiseguys.com. You can also watch all our past content right there, and would love for you to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We'll continue to grow that, up over 7,000 and flourishing. We're going to talk about Cougar Tribe in just a little bit tonight because we've got some really cool things moving forward. All starting, the hub is Wise Guys, and then the world is our campus.
Yeah,
right?
it's
kind of like the school.
Yep, it's very, very cool. So now we're grateful to sponsor, but we're grateful to you for being here with us. The chat's up and rolling already. Ridgecrest, California's in the house. Heber City is here, ready for another great show, they say. Howdy from Sandy. Howdy's usually something I hear from, like Texas. Don't we usually hear howdy from Texas?
That's kind of a cowboy
Howdy
thing.
From Sandy. But from Beaumont, Texas, they say hello. So I guess maybe it's hello from Beaumont. And Riker Wright's already on top of the good evening Pakaifi now, and Junior Sia added to the O-line. TJ Wood's doing some great work. TJ's been doing great work for the last couple of years. He's one of the good gets. He had an offer. We won't talk about it in specifics, but he had an offer to go someplace else, and BYU retained him, and it was kind of quiet behind the scenes, and that was very important to BYU's long-term success to keep TJ Woods here in the house. So.
Nebraska in the stream. There's Montana. There's North Carolina, and around the country and the globe we go. We got an awesome show tonight. We'll talk BYU football, update you on the portal additions and a portal departure today from BYU, and also the staff update with Kalani Sitake and his new group. All that's coming up tonight. Yeah,
we got Jay Drew from the Deseret News, the BYU's beat writer. He's on top of all of this. He's on top of football. He's on top of basketball, and we'll get Jay's insights on all that's happening right now. You got the basketball team right at the beginning of Big 12 play, and we've got the portal open for football and new signees and all this kind of stuff. So it's a great time to have BYU expert and beat writer Jay Drew on from the Deseret News. So
he was up there at the Huntsman Center when the Cougar fans took over the place.
Yeah.
During Morgan Scalley's halftime chat. We'll ask him what that was like. As Oregon, Texas, Wisconsin, all on the stream. There's Idaho as well, and California. Good to have you guys checking in with us. BYU basketball is back in action Wednesday night with a big one against TCU. We'll talk about that. They slip in the polls a little bit despite their winning.
Makes no sense. Kevin Young said it does make no sense to him. Yeah, he doesn't get it.
Really kind of a head scratcher.
Yeah. We'll talk about a Relight Athlete of the Week. Every week when we talk about this, it's like, yeah, of course. And this one, it has to do with a rivalry game. So we'll bring you that. So Dave, do you know where Gilmer, Texas? I mean, you served your mission in Texas.
I don't know where Gilmer is.
Yeah, somebody's in from Gilmer, Texas. Not sure where Gilmer is.
Yeah.
But
I'd be surprised if it's near San Antonio, but there's a billion little towns in Texas.
Yeah, my bet is it's like, I'm just going to take a guess and say it's east, out by Tyler, out someplace out that way.
That feels like where Gilmer would be.
Yeah, it seems like Gilmer would be East Texas.
Maybe, close to the Louisiana line.
So there you go. We'll see. Hopefully that Joe Dodd will tell us exactly where Gilmer is.
Wise Guys is presented by our friends at Brady Plus. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country, over 6,000 employees. Great job producers at Brady Plus. You can learn more at bradyplus.com.
And by Mountain America Credit Union, helping people achieve their financial dreams for over 80 years. Whether you're buying a home, planning for retirement, or managing daily expenses, Mountain America has the tools, technology, and guidance to help you succeed. There's a lot of information waiting for you at macu.com.
By the way, Gilmer is near Longview and Tyler. By the way, we've won 4 Texas football state championships. So
hey, and by the way, did I not say it felt like it was out in the east by Tyler?
It did feel like that.
Who's the most famous football player ever from Tyler? His nickname is the Tyler Rose.
Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell, baby. Yeah. You got it. I can't stump Dave. You guys know I can never stump Dave on a question like that.
You can stump on rap.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
Snoop Dogg's
when we do go to Snoop Dogg or Biggie
That's where
or some of those guys, then I have But when we're talking about just old-fashioned good old football history,
I'll come up with it.
Like he knows that Billy Sims is from Hooks, Texas too. He knows that.
Hook 'em horns. That's
right.
Even though he went to Oklahoma.
That's right. See, that's what I'm talking about. Don't mess with this guy. So
Wise Guys is also presented by Eddie, HR and payroll software built for small businesses. Whether you run a dental office in Spanish Fork, Utah, or a construction crew in Lehigh, Eddie helps you hire, onboard, track time, and run payroll all in one place. Simple, local, reliable, built by business owners who believe people come first. See how Eddie can serve your team at eddie.com.
Our Relight Athlete of the Week is presented by Redmond. The secret is in the salt. Learn what it can do for you at redmond.com. And we're going to announce it in just a minute here. And you're all going to go, yeah, of course, that's who the Relight Athlete of the Week is.
Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News and Deseret.com, Utah's newspaper since 1850. And again, Deseret News beat writer Jay Drew is going to join us in just a bit. It has been a spectacular week for BYU football. Let us know what you think on the stream. We'll try to get to as many comments as we can. But, let's go back to, we said goodnight last Monday. And then on Tuesday, Isaiah Glasker announced his return, led the linebackers with 67 tackles, 8.5 for loss, had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions. So all of a sudden it was like, okay, there's a jolt.
That was huge. And people have to understand, when you get a guy like that back from, instead of going into the portal, he comes back, because I don't think there was ever a risk that Isaiah was going to the portal, but there was a very high risk. He would say, I'm going to go take a shot at the NFL.
Yeah.
And for him to come back, that's the equivalent of getting a big-time 5-star out of the portal, is what that is. So Isaiah back.
So that was Tuesday.
Right. Bear announced his return on Wednesday. So he says, I'm going to come back, run it back for my sophomore year. He was the Big 12 Freshman of the Year this year. Number 6, ESPN college football writer Billy Tucker ranked him in the top 25 freshmen in college football last season. So number 6. He's got Bear Bachmeier there.
So that was good.
So, and that one, people were like, when's Bear going to announce? There was never any rumor that Bear was going anywhere.
But what we were worried about, what was announced on Thursday when L.J. Martin announced his return.
We were worried he was going to the NFL.
Yeah.
You're talking about the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year and the leading rusher in the Big 12. I thought he might go. But the fact that he got banged up a little bit, had to have surgery on his shoulder, made him rethink, I need to get really, really healthy, stay healthy for a season. And we've talked about this a little bit, Dave. And in the NIL era, it's not as tough a decision. It's like, okay, do I go? I might, instead of being a 2nd-round pick, I might be a late 3rd rounder now or 4th rounder because of the injury, but that's still good money, and I don't make anything here. Well, that's not the case anymore. Like when you're the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year coming back, you're going to make good money with your NIL deal, and it's guaranteed as long as you don't leave. And in the NFL, you might sign a signing bonus, but if you get cut, you don't make anything.
Yeah.
Right? So
look,
not a bad decision.
LJ comes back. He needs 1,361 yards next season to pass Jamal Williams as BYU's all-time leading rusher. So not only can he come back, think about it. He was right there, right around that mark this year and missed the bowl game. And he was, you could say he missed the Texas Tech game. That was his first game back from a shoulder injury, and he was hardly used. And but man, he's got a schedule coming up where he's going to get the football. And I'm thinking of him healthy and Bear healthy, and now everyone's got film on him. And you know what that film's going to have him? It's going to have him freaking out because the Bear's going to take the snap. They know he could run, or they know he could give it to LJ, or they also know he could throw for 300 yards.
Right.
It's all on film, but that's what he's going to do. And
expect to see a couple of wide receiver pickups here before it's all said and done, to give him a few more weapons outside. Big time tight end announcement.
Yeah.
Right. So all of a sudden it's like, what are we going to do to replace Carson Ryan? Well, we just got that answer. Yeah. Right. And so the weapons on offense, and the offensive line was very solid last year. Very good. TJ does a great job. He's added a couple of portal commitments there. And he's got a group of young guys that were like red shirt, gray shirt freshmen this last year that are monsters that are coming up. Like the talent in that offensive line group is off the charts, and they're going to be good for a long time up front. So this is shaping up. Like last 2 years ago, it seemed like it was all defense. Last year, it seemed like it was a lot of great defense and some very good offense. What if they're lights out on both sides of the ball this next year? This is the next step where you win a Big 12 championship.
That's how they go.
Right.
So look for my article in the Deseret News later tonight on the other big three. When we think of the big three on campus, there's AJ, Richie, and Rob for basketball. Football has Bear, LJ, and Parker. Their production is off the charts. That's going to get posted at Deseret.com tonight at 9 o'clock Mountain Time.
There you go.
And you look at that and you're going, now there's big six. And then I suggest there might even be three more.
Right.
And they all had a chance to go somewhere else, and they all chose BYU.
It's fantastic. So it's because of culture. We talked about this before. It's because of the culture. Kids want to play in this program. So it's awesome. BYU also signed a help to the wide receiver core, an Oregon wide receiver, Kyler Kasper, 6'6", 220-pound wide receiver with 2 years left to play.
Okay.
Didn't see a lot of action this last year because he's hurt. And so he's had a little bit of an injury-plagued career to this point. So it's a little bit of a stretch. But when this guy is healthy, he's lights out.
And is he healthy now?
He's pretty healthy right now. Here's the thing. BYU has a phenomenal track record with this off-season training program with the strength and conditioning staff of keeping guys healthy. And so let's see if they can work their magic on Kyler Kasper. And if this guy stays healthy, I mean, he's Chase Roberts 2 inches taller.
Yeah.
So
you got 6'6" Kasper, you got 6'5" JoJo Phillips, you got Parker Kingston slicing in between. They're in the market for another one. We'll see how that goes. BYU signed USC tight end Walker Lyons, 6'4", 245 pounds. He caught 20 passes for 223 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Trojans last season. He's the older brother of future BYU quarterback Ryder Lyons. He'll have 2 years of eligibility. This is a significant signing for BYU. It really was number one on their list. We need a tight end. Let's go get Walker Lyons from USC, and he replaces Carson Ryan. Just like that.
Yeah.
One starter to the next.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And the tight end became more and more used, it seemed like, as the season went on. And Carson had a big bowl game. Played fantastic. And so having Walker here is going to be great. We wonder if he was going to come. His girlfriend's a BYU student.
I know, but until they get here.
But you never know. So, hey, BYU also picked up Stanford offensive tackle Zac Yamauchi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yamauchi. 6'4", 325 pounds. He could replace Isaiah Jada. He has 3 seasons of eligibility. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to play outside, inside, but he's a great athlete, and this is another big pickup. And you get him in this strength and conditioning program and getting coached by TJ Woods, wow. So, and by the way, they're in the mix for a few other players, some wide receivers, more offensive linemen.
Well, they've announced Junior Sia just a moment ago.
Right.
Big offensive lineman from Utah State. We've seen a report that Paki Finau from Washington is coming. He's 6'5", 310. Right. And then we've seen a report of Cade Uave, the linebacker from Cal, choosing BYU over Michigan. And so that's just the developments in the last couple hours.
Yeah, it's pretty big. In news, move it out. In the portal is Max Alford, the linebacker.
Yeah.
Played quite a bit this last year, but then sustained a knee injury. So he's going to look to finish someplace else, try to get back from that knee injury. So,
and BYU now just announcing that Finau is official too. So they picked up about 700 pounds of offensive linemen today.
Good stuff.
One question that we want to touch on before Jay Drew joins us here in just a few minutes. You see teams all over the Big 12 totally active in the portal. Around the country, people are buying left and right like it's the day after Thanksgiving. But BYU went 12-2, and everybody that could come back has come back. So they're addressing specific needs, tight end, offensive line, receiver, linebacker. When you have a team where the culture keeps everybody here, the transfer portal actually becomes really cool because you're like, okay, I need one thing.
Right.
I need one lineman. Instead of, I got to get a whole new team. And we've seen, like Iowa State needs a whole new team because their team went to Penn State.
Yeah, and that's hard. And
Utah's trying to figure out what they're trying to put
what
back
are they
together.
What are they going to do there? They have to replace coaches and both at Iowa State and at Utah. It's replace coaching staffs and players, which is a double problem right now. Man, BYU hasn't lost a bunch. And you're going to see players in the portal. Most of the players in the portal for BYU, and this has been the case the last couple of years, the people start reporting, well, this is now 13 players in the portal for BYU, or this is 11, or this is whatever. most of the players that got in the portal early or will get into the portal are not typically, and we talked about this last week or the week before. Keelan Marion, BYU didn't want to lose.
No.
Let's face it. They didn't want to lose Keelan Marion. Got way more money, and he wanted to go play at Miami. Okay. So there's one. They have one or two a year that go to what they would consider a bigger program for more money, and BYU doesn't want to lose those guys. The vast majority of the others are ones that they sit down and they have a conversation with the coach, and they're like, what's it looking like for me? And the coaches try to be honest with them, and it's like, man, if I'm sitting at the 3 spot or the 4 spot, do you think I could play someplace else? And someplace else is saying, hey, we don't have any. You're stockpiled at that position at your school. Come here. And they're in the portal to see if that can be the case. And that somebody gives them an opportunity to be a starter or a primary backup. And if they're a starter at that team, that team's going to pay him more NIL money than BYU is going to pay him as a 3 or 4 here. And it becomes an economic thing. And BYU supports those kids on that.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, it's like, we should probably get you in the portal. We'll help you. We'll help you find a team that is a fit where you can get more playing time. So don't be alarmed about the number of kids in their portal, as long as they're not people that have integral current roles that would continue to be that. When those guys are in the portal, I guarantee BYU's not trying to lose them.
Our friend Jeff Hansen, who's on our program all the time, a recruiting guru for BYU, just tweeted out, BYU added 3 offensive linemen who could all end up in the week 1 starting lineup, and it would be 0% surprising.
Yeah, how about that?
That's the kind of day that BYU's had so far here on this Monday. That's good. Staff news for Kalani Sitake's group. Not a lot since our last show.
Yeah.
Kelly Poppinga, defensive coordinator, linebackers coach. Sione Puha, associate head coach. Demario Warren, defensive pass game coordinator, corners coach. Former SUU head coach coming from Boise State. And then Gary Anderson, we know, still around as the defensive consultant. That was huge. The only thing we do know is today Weber State announcing Gavin Fowler as the new defensive coordinator and safeties coach. And so they put that official word out, and I tweeted him right back and said, there's one of the brightest young minds in football.
We kind of all, didn't we all talk about that a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
So he's been up at Weber working for the last couple of weeks and doing a great job for them. I know that they just got a big commitment from a big recruit that he had in this last weekend. So and he's working hard up there. Now keep in mind, at BYU there's still positions open.
Yeah.
Like they still have some things that they have to do. This week is considered a dead week, so there's not active recruiting and that kind of stuff. And the coaches are kind of not doing a lot. The coaching convention is this week. National Coaches Convention. I know Kalani has to be down at that. And so it's kind of a time when not a lot happens. So BYU still has to fill the safeties coach job, right? And
special teams. Remember,
and special
Poppinga
teams
leads
coordinator
over there.
Job.
Right.
And Kelly Poppinga is going to take the linebackers. So he did have the rush ends. So somebody needs to be aligned to that. So there's still some stuff to go on that. And, I don't know if Gavin will be in the mix on that stuff or not, because they haven't really gotten going on that stuff. So
we'll see, and we'll keep you posted.
And we'll keep you posted on it. Like right now, Gavin's got his nose down and he's getting after it. But we'll see how that all goes. It's like, Gavin thought he had Eddie Heckard with him up as the corners coach at Weber, and guess what? Eddie's going to Michigan.
Yeah. Well, things happen.
Yeah, and Gavin thought that Skylar Ridley was going to be the offensive coordinator at Weber State.
And he's at Utah
And now
State.
He's the offensive coordinator at Utah State. So quarterback's coach.
It's a very fluid situation.
It's crazy with how this goes right now, you guys. And it's because it's that time of year. And when coaching changes happen, look at the domino effect that's happened at Utah. Like, it's crazy what's happening.
Gutted like a fish.
Well, and so all those guys go. Let's think about it. Kevin McGivern, it affects all the programs in the state. You get Utah's offense coordinator heads to Michigan, and then Utah says, well, we're just going to look north. Let's take Kevin McGivern, Utah State's offense coordinator. Let's bring him down. So then Utah State says, well, let's look south. Let's take Weber State's offense coordinator and let's bring him up here. That's how it goes. And unfortunately for these programs, that merry-go-round's not done yet.
Yeah.
That's not done yet.
The good news is BYU's offensive coordinator is staying right where he is.
That's exactly right. And I think BYU, considering what happened at Utah, has fewer changes, which is really, really good. To stay inside on what they've done so far, and DeMario's a great addition from outside, but for the most part, to promote from within and do all that, when your team is having great success, especially your defense the way it is, you want to keep running the same stuff. So Klein's made the right decision on a lot of this.
Yeah, when you're 23-4, in your last 2 seasons.
Right.
You just keep doing it.
You just keep rolling.
So we'll keep you posted on all that. The East-West Shrine Bowl is coming up on January 26th on NFL Network. Chase Roberts and Garrison Grimes are going to be in that. The Senior Bowl will feature Jack Kelly and Will Farron. That's on January 31st on NFL Network as well. So we'll talk more about that as we get closer, but they got a chance to impress some scouts.
Yeah. They do, absolutely.
And the weeks leading up to the games, actually, where they do the impressing.
Yeah, especially that Senior Bowl where Jack and Will are, because the NFL coaches coach that, and they get their eyes on these guys all week long. I think Jack's closing speed is going to surprise a lot of people.
There's got to be a spot for him, even if it starts like where David Nixon started, was special teams.
That's right.
If you can be a rocket heading downfield and make a tackle, they pay guys for that.
Yeah, and any question that Jack Kelly can't do that, like he can absolutely do that. So, how about ratings for non-college football playoff?
Yeah, I thought this was interesting.
Games. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Remember BYU's bowl game last year, the Alamo Bowl? It was the most watched.
8 million.
8 million. I think that was the most watched of all time of non-college football playoff one, right?
It was right up there, and it was certainly the most in modern day for BYU.
And last year, not even close, right? Yeah. So this year, the Cheez-It Bowl, that was Michigan versus Texas, was 9.1 million average, and their peak hit 15 million.
These are the top non-college football playoff bowl games.
So Cheez-It was number 1. Number 2 was the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah, out of the 34 games.
Right, BYU and Georgia Tech, 8.7 million was their average. Peak 10 million. So part of that game, 10 million eyeballs were on that bowl game.
Doesn't it feel like there were 10 million people watching Evan Johnson make that pick?
Yeah, it does at the end.
That's when the peak, I think, came.
Imagine if BYU had been playing Notre Dame as the Pop-Tarts Bowl originally planned, it would absolutely eclipse the Cheez-It Bowl.
Well, ratings. I think in October, and I'm just saying October, nighttime, ABC, BYU Notre Dame, that'll be off the charts.
Big time. Yeah. Big time. And then number 3, just for the sake of finishing out the top 3, Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State versus Clemson, 7.6 million average, a peak of 10.3 million. So those are that was like the underachieving bowl. Yeah. But people still want. For ESPN, it's like, why do they keep spending all this money? It's the most watched bowl season in a decade. People are saying, why don't they just get rid of the bowls? They don't even matter anymore. No,
just come up with some more.
It's the most watched bowl season in history.
Yeah.
So there you go. People love it.
Eric from Singapore back on the stream with us from the other side of the world. Happy Tuesday to you, Eric. The most watched teams in the West. This is through January 2nd. This is all the viewers from this season.
All games.
Oregon is number 1 at 58.79 million, and that doesn't count Friday's playoff game.
They're a national brand, let's face it.
And they had the other game where they won. That does count, that one. This is through January 2nd. So the New Year's Day Bowls count. BYU is second, the most watched team in the West at 37.56 million. USC's third, then Washington and Colorado. So that puts BYU right where it should be.
Rarefied company right there. Yeah. Because Oregon is a big, big brand. Oregon and Nike are big brands.
Yeah, and they got 2 16 million viewer primetime games by being in the playoffs.
Right. And they got the projected number 1 pick in the draft at quarterback.
Yeah.
Although I must say this Indiana team made him look like, wow.
Yeah. But
Indiana's so good.
I will say, I think it's fair to say that BYU has never had 37.56 million TV viewers in a season in history.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, hey, you mentioned Eric's back with us from Singapore. How about Brenda Wells? She says, oi. I think that's what it's from Tessa and Mari Wells from Sao Paulo, Brazil.
All right.
Have we had Brazil in the house before?
I don't know, but we're thrilled to have them tonight.
And their grandparents are also there with them, Bill and Brenda Wells of West Virginia. Go Cougs. Hey, I think we might be. I think Brazil might be a new country for us.
Put it on the chart.
Brenda, we're so glad to have you, Tessa and Mary with us here, and then the grandparents, Bill and Brenda. Welcome aboard.
Couple of minutes from Jay Drew. The college football playoffs. Miami beat Ole Miss in a game that was great. Keelan Marion had 7 catches for 114 yards, including a 52-yard touchdown. It was great to see Keelan having a good time. Then Indiana hammered Oregon 56-22. Fernando Mendoza, 17 of 20, 177 yards, 5 touchdowns. He's been brilliant in the postseason.
Unbelievable. He looks like a composed NFL guy.
Yeah.
Like, he is so good. The championship is a number 10 Miami and number 1 Indiana, Monday, January 19th on ESPN. By the way, Miami has 45 4- or 5-star players. Indiana has 7.
That's the BYU model. It can happen.
Right? So,
it can happen.
Hey, a question for you, Keelan Marion. Remember when he just sat right here?
Yeah.
He was right here in this chair.
Best personality ever.
And we just said, that guy is electric just in a human being. Yeah. And I'm so excited that he's playing well.
I hope he gets a touchdown in the big game.
I hope he plays well. Although, what do you think? I hope Keelan plays well, but Indiana's playing out of their minds.
Yeah.
They're the most complete team in football. I don't know how you beat them.
They're not turning it over. Miami's playing their best football in the last month for sure, the way they've looked these last couple of games. I think it's a classic championship.
Yeah, it's great.
I'd be surprised if the Hoosiers don't win.
The reason the Hoosiers are so good, they don't make mistakes anywhere, and they're just physical at every level. They just beat people up. And then they don't make mistakes. And they have a brilliant quarterback and wide receivers that make plays. But I feel like they just maul people. And they maul people in the Big Ten, which is saying something.
They give hope to every program that doesn't have 54 and 5-star players.
They develop them.
And you look at BYU and who's coming back. That's the road they're on. And they went 12-2. So Indiana's undefeated. And a couple years ago, Indiana was at the bottom of the Big Ten. And now they're at the top of the Big Ten. And BYU, a couple years ago, they were independent, and now they're competing for first place in the Big 12. They got to catch Texas Tech, but they're there. You know, they're not down here. They're up here, and so we'll cheer. All my mom's side are Hoosiers, so we'll cheer for the Hoosiers. Let's do the Relight Athlete of the Week, presented by Redmond. The secret's in the salt. Learn what it can do for you at redmond.com. It is our pleasure to announce Richie Saunders as the Relight Athlete of the Week. Blaine, tell us what he's done.
Well, Richie had 65 points and 22 boards in 2 games last week.
Wow.
That is a high level. Like, we don't use the word elite that much. That is an elite week. He had a game high 24 on Saturday against Utah, and he pulled down a career high 14 rebounds. I felt like his offensive rebounds down the stretch won the basketball game for BYU. He was spectacular. It was special for the senior from Riverton because it was his first win at the Huntsman Center. When the announcers were saying that, I'm like, wow, that's hard to believe. But as long as he's been here, for him to finally get a win there was a big deal. Also last week, Richie had a career high 31 in BYU's 104-78 win against Arizona State. He was brilliant in that game. He was 10 of 13 from the field, including 6 of 8 from the three-point line, just unstoppable. Today, he was honored as the Big 12 Player of the Week. No surprise. On the season, the first team all Big 12 performers averaging 19.1 points and 5 rebounds per game. And in games when Richie has scored 20 or more, BYU is 8-0 this season and 21-3 all-time in his career. He and teammate A.J. DiBonsa are projected NBA draft picks this summer. And you add Rob Wright to that,
yeah,
it's the most dominant trio in college basketball right now.
Fantastic. Richie Saunders is the Relight Athlete of the Week. The secret's in the salt. Learn what it can do for you at redmond.com and click on the link in the chat and the show notes for a discount code giving you 15% off Redmond products. We appreciate Relight and their support of the Wise Guys, and we congratulate Richie Saunders. Our first guest tonight is the BYU beat writer for the Deseret News, who was recently honored as the Utah Sports Writer of the Year for a 4th time by the National Sports Media Association. Our pleasure to welcome Jay Drew back to the Wise Guys. Jay, when you win it a 4th time, is it as exciting as, say, the 2nd time? Where does that fit?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I guess my wife says I'm over the hill, so it was nice to show her that I still have a little bit of writing ability left in me. Kind of proud that I think I'm the only one that's won it at 2 different outlets, at the Trib and now with the Deseret News. So
nice.
That's kind of a fun thing. But yeah, it's humbling. I don't think I'm even in the top 10 of some of the talented writers here in Utah, sports writers. But it's a nice honor, and I really appreciate the people that voted for me.
Tell your wife that Jay and I, or Dave and I, we think you still got it.
So. Yeah, we do think you still got it.
We never doubted you.
She doesn't read a heck of a lot of my stuff anyway. So
she doesn't know. She doesn't know.
We read all your stuff.
Yeah, we read it all. She doesn't read it. So,
hey, it's been a pretty eventful offseason for BYU. It's only January 12th. What story stands out the biggest? Is it Kalani staying? Is it Jay Hill going? Is it AJ? What do you think?
Yeah, I think since the bowl game, it's the roster retention, which has just been amazing. I think today, Max Alford joined the portal, and then it looks like he's going to Michigan. He's kind of a backup linebacker. So I think that's the first guy they've lost to Michigan, Jay Hill, and of course he's got some family ties there. So that's a big story. Just the fact that all these guys so far, it looks like the key ones are coming back, which was really amazing in this day and age of the portal, and NIL especially. Other big stories, obviously the start of the basketball team has been pretty, I don't want to say expected, but because there were high hopes going in, but rarely do teams ever meet expectations, let alone surpass them. And right now, I think this team has. So those are some of the bigger ones. Obviously, the whole coaching change shakeup in Utah that reaches from St. George to Logan and everywhere in between has just been unbelievable to watch. I'm kind of working on a story right now about that and kind of the week that shook the landscape of college football in Utah, which probably have repercussions for years and years, both players and coaches. So, yeah, those are a few of the kind of the bigger stories that come to mind.
You mentioned that coaching shakeup, but that started with Kyle taking the job at Michigan. So, which I don't know if that surprised you or not, but then taking Gennaro Guilford, I've first taken Jay Hill, and then Gennaro Guilford, and then who didn't he take on the Utah staff, right? Did that surprise you? First off, that Kyle took that job, and then secondly, that he so aggressively went after Utah's coaching roster and then took a couple of key cogs to BYU's.
Yeah, it did surprise me a little bit. I thought, and this might be a little unfair, I thought Kyle worried a little bit more about, I guess, what we would call his legacy or how we will be remembered at Utah. And I think he maybe went from them building a statue for him at one point to now there's a good section of that fan base that is really, really mad at Kyle. And, deservedly so. He took a lot, and not just coaches. Now we're seeing a lot of some pretty good players going there as well. So yeah, that was a surprise. Just how aggressive that Kyle has been. And if you look back at Kyle's hirings at Utah, he tends to hire guys that he's really familiar with, and that he's in his coaching tree, or that he just have been at local schools, or that he maybe even played with back in his BYU days. So he's kind of been that way. So in a way, it's not that surprising that that's what he's done at Michigan. Is he's surrounded himself with people that you can tell that he really likes and that he's had success with. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how he fares there. That's going to be a really story worth watching.
Whittingham's a BYU story because he started here and his dad started here. The defense kind of evolved here. And then in hindsight, in your opinion, do you think Utah would have let Scally go to wherever he might have gone and kept Kyle and then kept all of the other staff members as opposed to having watched them walk out the door? What do you think Mark Harlan would do if he had a do-over?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that I really think he would have still done it. I really think they think so much of Morgan Scally, and I think that, let's face it, a little bit of word has trickled out. Morgan Scally's got a lot of Utah boosters behind him and that have grown antsy waiting for him to get his shot, including some family members. So there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, I think even with all that you just said and all the repercussions that have happened, I still think they probably would have wanted to keep Morgan Scally around. I think even at almost any cost, and obviously it's come at a huge cost. But that's just me speaking. I don't have any inside knowledge on that, but that's just my gut feeling of they were between a rock and a hard place. Let's face it, they were pushed to the point where they had to do this, and let the chips fall where they may sort of thing, and the chips have fallen. A lot of chips have fallen.
Yeah.
So Kyle has kind of been a little bit of a lightning rod in this BYU-Utah rivalry over the years, especially when he's been on both sides of it. Now, Morgan and Kalani are really good friends. Not that Kyle and Kalani weren't good friends, but I feel like Morgan and Kalani were kind of brought up together in coaching. Is that going to take some of the, I don't know, intensity out of this rivalry moving forward? Does it change the rivalry in any way to have Kyle at Michigan and have now be Morgan and Kalani?
I think it changes. However, I think it might take some of the vinegar out of it. It might soften it a little bit. But Morgan Scally, and I think we saw some of this personality at his press conference, at his introductory press conference, and then the other night at the Utah BYU game where he took the mic and was talking. I think he's a little more fiery, publicly fiery than Kyle Whittingham was. And how that plays out, when in terms of the rivalry, I guess it remains to be seen. But it'll be really interesting to see. I think, for one thing, Morgan Scally's not afraid to mention the letters BYU, which we hear from Kyle there in the last, 20 years or so, it seems like. So, but I think Morgan's going to embrace it more. I don't think he's going to be afraid when somebody brings up Bear Bachmeier to give us his honest opinion of Bear Bachmeier, as so to speak. I'm just using that as one example. I think he'll be more open in that way, and it'll create a pretty fun dynamic, I think.
Deseret News sports writer Jay Drew's on with us on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, Eddie, and Mountain America Credit Union. Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News. What do you think of Kelly Poppinga's promotion to defensive coordinator and the formation of his staff?
Yeah, I think it's the right call. I think Kelly has been around the defense now for a couple years, really heavily involved as not only the special teams coordinator, but the rush ends coach. I think it's a good move. I think it keeps some continuity. And I also think it's everything I've heard that Kalani is going to be a little more involved with the defense, maybe in the first couple of years to keep that going. I think Demario Warren is a really good hire. I think they really needed somebody dynamic like that to come in for Gennaro Guilford and kind of keep that going and keep that defensive backs pipeline going. That Gennaro, is a good recruiter, good evaluator of talent, and I think everything I hear about Demario Warren is the same things. So, yeah, I think and Kelly Poppinga is a real personable guy. So was Jay Hill. So I think he'll slide right into that really well also.
What about Gary Anderson? That was one of the first announcements, is that Gary was going to stay. How important is that to the continuity of what they've been doing defensively to have him on the defensive staff?
Yeah, that's good. He knows this defense. He's basically was a mentor to Jay Hill and others. And yeah, I think it was really important to keep him. I think a lot of people maybe thought he might follow Kyle to Michigan, and even beyond that as a full-time one of the 10 staffers. But I think if you can keep Gary, I mean, that's almost like having another head coach around, another defensive coordinator around, and to basically have him not count against that, whatever it is it 10 or 11 assistants that you can have full-time now?
And now it's interesting because the rule just changed. I think it was last year. You can have as many as you want, but you have to designate the 11 that are going to recruit off campus. So It always was 11. And so now, you could make him the coach of whatever. If you look at Bama and some of these schools that have unlimited resources, they have a bunch of coaches, So you can have as many as you want, but you have to designate the 11 off-campus recruiters. I don't think Gary wants to go recruit off campus anyhow.
No,
right? That's a good point.
Yeah. I think he's done with that. Jay, of all the defensive players that BYU retained, who do you think's the most significant?
Probably Falatau Sadawala. He's probably the one that, when we heard Jay Hill was going, me and a couple other reporters right there at the Pop-Tarts Bowl were just saying, okay, who are the guys he's going to try to get? Number one was Falatau. Number two, it might have been Isaiah Glasker, assuming that he was going to come back and not go to the NFL. Those were the big ones. Obviously, Keanu Tanuvasa. staying was big, but trying to think of some of the others. Those were maybe the three guys that I thought could probably play for Michigan right away. Maybe Evan Johnson, who kind of took a little bit of time before announcing that he was coming back. He's another one I think maybe you could see playing for Michigan. So those, I gave you four, but if I had to rank them, I'd kind of go in that order that I just gave you.
It's our pleasure to have Deseret News sports writer Jay Drew on the Wise Guys live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. The Cougars get LJ Martin back for his senior season. What does he mean for their chances at a championship next season?
Yeah, that's huge. It's just huge. He's got a chance to become one of the all-time leading ball carriers at BYU. I think he's short about 1,350 yards around there. So just that one's huge. We saw the difference that he made when he was in games when he was healthy. Obviously didn't play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and he was missed, of course. And I think it saves them. If LJ had gone, I think they really would have had to go to the portal. Not that Sione Moa isn't a good back, but he's obviously had the health issues, and Jovessa Damuni and is another one that showed some flashes in the bowl game. But LJ is a cut above, as we've seen. He's not the fastest back. He's not the biggest back, although he's pretty big for a back. But he's just got the incredible vision. I would just marvel at kind of how he could find holes. And then he's an excellent pass catcher out of the backfield. And he picks up blitzes really well. So he's got pretty much the complete package, and that was huge, absolutely huge to get him back. And it was huge, I think, for Bear Bachmeier as well, to go to Bear and say, hey, LJ is going to be back. This offense is going to be pretty much intact. Obviously, losing Chase Roberts will hurt, but and Carson Ryan, but getting LJ back was just huge.
Where does a Bear Martin combo rank among the Big 12? I mean, almost all the quarterbacks have left, so there's not a lot of combos coming back. But as far as a running back quarterback combo, where do those two rank in this league, and how lethal of a combination can they become now that they've done it a year?
Yeah, it's got to be up there at the top. Obviously we're waiting on Utah. I know Wayshawn Parker is coming back. I think he announced for Utah, and then Ficklen's coming back, and we still haven't really seen anything definitive from Dampier. So I'm trying to think of the other, everyone else is, Arizona State's losing their quarterbacks. Cincinnati's losing theirs to Texas Tech. So it's crazy. But I really can't think of a more dominant duo coming back, intact at one school than Bear and LJ. So that's a really good place to start for Aaron Roderick going into next year.
Jay, we saw the tight end reemerge in BYU's offense with Carson Ryan, and then too bad they only had him for 1 year like this, really involved. But how valuable will USC transfer Walker Lyons be in that tight end spot? It seems like a big get in the transfer portal.
Yeah, huge get, absolutely. What made Carson Ryan so good is, not only was he an outstanding pass catcher and route runner, but he was a good blocker, serviceable blocker. They didn't have to pull him out off the field in obvious run situations or whatever. And I think getting Walker Lyons is huge. They almost got him a few years ago. USC got him. Now it's going to be really interesting to see with Ryder coming, his brother. Because I think Walker has 2 years of eligibility removed from Ryder. So they'll, with Ryder saying he's going to serve a mission for 1 year, that could mean they could be paired for that 1 year together, which would be really fun to watch. The tight end is back in BYU's offense. I think there were a couple years there after Isaac Rex that it kind of slipped a little bit. Of course, Isaac wasn't full strength the last couple of years of his career, but Carson Ryan brought it back, and it's really looks like in good shape right now.
Considering the current state of the program, where would you rank the Cougars in your preseason poll if you had to vote tonight? And where would you put them in the national poll? The Big 12, where would you put them in the Big 12? Where would you put them in the AP Top 25?
Yeah, the dust still hasn't settled in the Big 12, but you got to go Texas Tech number one. So I would probably put, and I think Utah's just, even with Morgan Scalley there and losing a lot, I still think they've got a lot of good pieces. I would probably put BYU top four, maybe three or four around there. Texas Tech number one, and then a lot of other schools. Iowa State's going to drop off tremendously. It looks like from everything we see. I wouldn't be surprised if TCU continues to come back. I know they're losing their quarterback, but I think I read where they had quite a few pieces behind him. And so, yeah, I would probably put BYU. I'd probably put them third. And then as far as if I were an AP voter, I'd put them probably between 10 and 15, like almost where they left off. Probably, I'd probably put them about 10 if I were. I'm not. I'm not an AP voter.
Right.
That's not a fun job. It's kind of a thankless job. I used to do it back in the day for football and basketball, and they started publishing what everybody voted, and people could email you, and that just got like, this ain't worth it.
No, too much consternation from everybody, right? It's just no good.
And the one thing is, if you're a beat writer or even in what you guys do, with your pregame stuff and all that, you don't get to watch a lot of college football like the average fan does, because with the travel and, during the game you're covering. And so you don't really see a lot of college football unless you, record everything and, go back and watch and stuff. So that's a really hard job. And so, yeah, that's no more for me. That's why
we support you in that for sure, Jay. We support you in that.
We don't have time to watch those games either.
It's funny because last
our
year,
colleague Jackson Payne does the basketball. He's young and he's got thick skin, so
he can
more
do
power to
it.
him.
He can do it. It's interesting because last year at this same time, with Jake Retzlaff coming back, we were all saying, hey, BYU should be like 10, 12. And then as soon as Jake announced he was transferring, they just dropped off the radar for everybody. So it's like how important it is that they kind of keep this intact from now until they start the season to maintain this. Because I think most people are going to feel very similar to the way you feel, that they should be between 10 and 15.
Yeah, it's, and they say it doesn't play into everything else. And I think it does. It doesn't play into when the CFP rankings come out. But I mean, the committee's human. They watch what all the media supposedly vote on, and they see which teams are up there. And the teams on the ESPN, on this, the ranked teams during games are always there, and their percentage of winning and all that. So they're fresh in mind. So yeah, I know in the long run, the AP poll isn't as significant as when the CFP rankings come out, but I still think they're darn important. I think BYU found that out this last year. They just got a slow start in the AP poll. What they broke in after, was it week 3 when they beat East Carolina, I think. So yeah, it's definitely huge. And then college football is all about the quarterback. I mean, that's what everybody reads about, talks about. And if you don't have a quarterback, or you're unsettled at quarterback, you're behind the 8 ball from the beginning, at least in the minds of a lot of voters.
Yeah, and the NFL too. You don't have a quarterback, you're not in the playoffs. That's for sure, and that's why they make a couple of bucks.
Yeah,
the way it's going. Deseret News sports writer Jay Drews on the Wise Guys with us tonight in a rare time on campus where you can have the football and basketball teams ranked in the top 11 in the same week when the next AP football poll is released next week after the championship game. Basketball's flying high. What do you make of the big three? AJ, Richie, and Rob. Have we ever seen a better trio at BYU, in your opinion?
Not that I'm familiar with. We talk about a lot about 2010-11 with Jimmer and Jackson Emery, who was more of a great defensive player, and Brandon Davies. That was a really good, threesome that I remember. But yeah, I don't think anything's close. I know a couple years ago they had Yoli and TJ Haas, and was it Ryan Toulson? Jake
Toulson, yeah.
Yeah. Seemed like I didn't actually cover him there, that little 3-year stretch where I went to cover the Utes. But I remember the big win over Gonzaga when Gonzaga was number 1. So that was good. But yeah, I don't know, maybe back when they had like, was it Danny Ainge, Fred Roberts, Devin Durant, Steve Trumbo? But those guys weren't the type of scorers, just the prolific scorers that these guys are. So, yeah, just looking back, I would probably have to say this is obviously the best three, grouping. I think at one time, one year that BYU's had.
Yeah.
BYU in basketball has TCU coming into the Marriott Center on Wednesday night, not ranked, and but still a decent basketball team. And then it kind of starts to turn a corner to getting tough. They're going to go on the road to Texas Tech. They get Utah at home. Then they have Arizona, who's number 1 in the country. What are you watching for as this schedule starts to now get tougher as they get into the meat of the Big 12 schedule?
Yeah, I think they need to get. We've just talked about the Big Three, and they've been phenomenal. I think they need more out of somewhere else. And Kennard Davis has done a reasonable job of adding some points, but the bench is giving them next to nothing. I think what the bench had, like, was it 6 or 7 points against Utah? That's just not really going to cut it, especially if foul trouble creeps in and things like that. So, and injuries, like Keba's been banged up a little bit and missed the Arizona State game. So, I'm still waiting for Tyler Murus to maybe show us that shooting stroke that, we were promised we were going to get when he transferred from Idaho. Some of the other guys, Alex, I can't really pronounce his last name, but he hasn't really kind of blossomed like we thought. So
Kostic.
I will say this: Ahmed is Beto Ahmed has been just what the doctor ordered. He came up huge in that Utah game when Keba was again in foul trouble, especially with his rim protecting, which is really huge in college basketball. Because there's not a lot of teams in college basketball that have really good mid-range shooting. Utah made a lot of mid-range shots the other night, which is kind of how they stayed in the game. But so Ahmed brings that kind of element. He's been a really good pickup. I'm actually working on a little story on him. But to answer your question, yeah, I think they just needed something more from their bench. They got to find something. Especially on those tough road games where things start going against them, and the Big Three maybe is in a little foul trouble, and they just need a lift from somewhere. And I think that's maybe the missing ingredient right now.
Let's go back to that game the other night in Salt Lake. You were there, BYU, Utah. It's always festive. I think there was probably more BYU fans in this one than even in years past. It seemed like it was 50-50. Looked blue and red on the TV screen. But what did you think about when Morgan Scalley went out to speak to the crowd at halftime, and the 9,000 Cougar fans had nothing else to do, so they did the "Let's Go Cougars" chant and drowned him out. It felt like Utah could have picked a better night to send him out to do that. What were you thinking when you're listening to all that?
That was my thoughts exactly when I saw him walk out and bring out the assistant coaches. I thought, of all nights, didn't they do their homework? Didn't they realize how many BYU fans would be here? And so I just wasn't surprised. And, frankly, if the tables were turned, I would have expected the same thing in Provo if a bunch of Utah fans were there. That's obviously not going to happen in any near future with the way BYU is selling out their building and stuff. But, I just think it goes down as part of the rivalry lore. I don't think people should be offended by it. And if they are, just remind them of some of the chants the Utah students were saying before and during the game, and directed at, Kennard Davis and BYU in general. And so, yeah, all's fair in love and war and rivalries, in my opinion.
It was uncomfortable to watch, just because it's the humanity of it all.
I felt bad for him. I
felt bad for him
and
too.
I like Morgan. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this show.
Yeah, we can say what we want on this show.
I like Morgan. He's a good friend. I think he's great. So,
and I thought he handled it well. I think and he actually did address BYU fans, and he said something to the effect of the BYU Utah rivalry is the greatest rivalry in the country, or one of the greatest, or something along those lines. So, yeah, I thought Morgan handled it just fine. And, I think it's just one of those things that I think in the long run are just going to be remembered and laughed about.
Hey, have you seen enough from this team, Jay, that you think there's a chance they could get to the Final Four? Do they have enough talent and depth to do that this year?
Talent, yes, for sure. Depth, we talked about before. I don't know yet. There are a few little things. I mean, the free throws the other night that hasn't been a huge issue, but the other night it was in a tight game. That's something, obviously, you got to get the right guys at the line, and they did. I mean, AJ missed the front end, and Richie missed a couple, and then atoned for himself by making some. So, yeah, that's interesting. As I was walking out of the building with a couple other reporters, we were talking about the exact same thing. Hey, is this a top 10 team? Is this a Final Four team? And I think the consensus was yes, but ... They need to improve on a couple things and I think they just need to find a sharpshooter, 3-point shooter, sniper off the bench that can come in and hit a couple, kind of like they had, it seems like they had last year with Trevin and Dallin Hall would come in and kind of help out in that way as well. I think if there's one missing ingredient, that's it right now.
And it's interesting because that's truly what they brought Russ and Kostic in to do.
Yeah.
So they hope that those guys can develop into that. We'll see.
Thing is, you got to let them come into the game, and then you got to let them shoot to do it. And we haven't seen Kostic for a while now, and Russ is in and out. Now you're in a weird spot in the league to where you let guys try stuff.
Yeah, somehow they have to have it. I agree with you, Jay. Here's an interesting question from the chat. I'm gonna let Jay answer this. He goes, this is Scott Ernst. Am I the only one that he immediately looks to see if Tony Padilla is reffing the game? Well, I'm going to let you answer that one, Jake. Dave and I are going to not answer that. You answer that.
Yeah. Tony's had kind of a mixed bag with BYU over the years. In fact, last year, in the BYU-Utah game that Utah won in overtime, Tony made some few interesting calls down the stretch, and Utah went to the line 32 times and BYU just 10. But I will say that he made the call at the Arizona game, BYU at Arizona, where Richie was fouled at the very end and literally hit a couple free throws to win the game. Tony Padilla made that call at Arizona in Tucson. So it's not all bad, BYU fans.
There you go.
Maybe they forgot that.
The villain that he's pointed out to be, but yes, I like paying attention to the officials. I'm kind of fascinated by them and how a lot of these guys have regular jobs. For instance, Tony's a bail bondsman.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right?
I just am really interested in that. I over the years, the guy that's always seemed to have it out for BYU was Randy McCall. I don't know. We used to call him back in the day, No Call McCall. These guys are human. They do their best. I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I'm just saying that, if you're a BYU fan, that's another guy that sometimes when he shows up, you kind of clench your teeth and
Say,
No
Jay,
Call
I gotta
McCall.
say,
I hadn't heard that.
No Call McCall. Guys are going like, now they're all like, Padilla's definitely not my favorite. And they're like, come on, Jay, one call among hundreds from Padilla. Like, so nobody's buying it. It's funny. This tells you when you're too involved. So we'll be watching a game that we're not involved in, and my wife will say, isn't that Vern Harris reffing? That's cool that Vern's doing the game. Or is that Mike Reed? I'm like, and that is Mike Reed. And she's like, whatever happened to David Hall? Is he still reffing? And I'm thinking, honey, you've been watching way too much basketball with me over way too many years that she knows all the officials' names, right?
I used to always marvel at how Utah Jazz fans, say market, would just know all the NBA refs, like more than just because of that Dick Bavetta call.
Yeah.
If you're a longtime Jazz fan, you'll remember it. But just it seems like of all the fans in the NBA, Utah Jazz fans knew the officials more than any of them.
Well, longtime BYU fans don't have a lot of love for their Irv Brown or Moose Stubing, for that matter.
Moose Stubing, down here one back in the past.
Those guys took pride in ticking everybody off.
Eric Curry, everybody knows Eric Curry. It's funny that we know these refs' names, but the true blue BYU fans know what refs they like and don't like. So
5 questions presented by Strategy Square. Let Chantel build your company's social media presence. You can reach her at strategysquare.com. BYUSquared.co. Tonight, Jay is prepared to reveal his top 5 BYU basketball teams in program history. Now, this current team is just midway through their history, and where they go, we're all going to find out in the next 2 months. But, Jay, you've had some time to think about this. Let's start with number 5.
Number 5, I'm going to go with the 1971-72 team. Stan Watts was the coach. They had Kresimir Kosic, arguably the greatest BYU basketball player. I know Danny Ainge fans and Jimmer fans might argue with that, but 1971-72 team, they had Doug Richards, Bernie Fryer. They won the WAC championship, were ranked 9th nationally. So that's number 5.
All right.
Nice. I was over in Croatia, which isn't even Kresimir's home country. And I mentioned that name, and because the guy said basketball was his passion. He absolutely knew who he was.
Oh, yeah.
That part of the world, they all know who Kresimir Kosic is, right? So crazy. Number 5 was 71-72. Okay, how about number 4, Jay?
Number 4, we kind of talked about this before, the 2019-20 team. They didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament with the pandemic. Yoli, TJ Haas, Ryan Toulson. That was a really good team. I wasn't on the beat then, as I mentioned before, but that I think that's the team that beat number 1 Gonzaga in Provo that year. It might have been the year before, around there. But that nucleus, those guys, that was a very good team. So I'll put them at number 4.
We can say this because they never had to play it, but I think that was at least a Sweet 16 team. I thought they were really good, maybe even an Elite 8 team. So they got robbed.
Playing good at that
But
point.
everybody, I used to do the Atlantic 10 during that time, and everybody complains, and I go, really? How about Dayton? They were like with Toppin and all those guys are like number 2 in the country coming out of the A10, and they didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament. And I think they could have won the NCAA tournament. So they got robbed worse than we do that year. So
sadly, that season ended with St. Mary's hitting a shot at the buzzer in the semis.
My goodness, that's
at the Orleans Arena. Remember that?
I do remember
was that
watching
the Dell of a dagger?
No, it was
that's
it
right.
was
It
the
wasn't
other
even that
guy.
one.
They
That's
called
right.
timeout. Everyone knew he was going to get. I can't remember his name, but he was an awesome guard. Anyway, he hits the shot, and BYU gets beat in the semis, and then the same
right.
St. Mary's Gonzaga, and then the Cougs went home to wait and
And then
wait
no- and
and
then no
wait,
tournament.
and then it all ended.
Unbelievable.
What a weird time.
Yeah, that was a weird year. So number 3, Jay.
Yeah, number 3, I got a team I covered, 2010-11 team that made it to the Sweet 16 after Brandon Davies was suspended with Jimmer and Kyle Collinsworth. I was a freshman on that team. Noah Hartsock. We mentioned Brandon Davies, Jackson Emery. That was a really good team, and a lot of BYU fans wonder what might have been if Brandon Davies hadn't gotten in the trouble that he did. Just a great team. A couple days before Brandon was suspended, I remember being at San Diego State, and I think it was on CBS, national television, a day game. I think BYU, I think they're both in the top 10. BYU was like number 5. And Charles Abuo just played out of his head. That was another great player on that team. They won that game, and then like two days later, Brandon was suspended. So
yeah.
it was a very, very good team, and could have gone a long ways. And the path was laid out. I think if they had I think they lost to Florida in overtime.
Yeah.
If they'd won that game, they would have played Butler, who I think they could have handled. And Butler ended up, I think, going to the Final Four and maybe even the championship game that year. So that was a very good team that, everybody knows that history.
That's a great one. That's a great team. So, okay, number 2.
Number 2, I'm going to go with last year's team, BYU team, 2024-25 team, Sweet 16, Jaeger Demon, however you say his name.
Dioman now.
Dioman.
Yeah. But great, he just got better and better as the year went on and was really good in the NCAA tournament. And obviously, Richie became a superstar as well on that team. And so I would put that team up there. If they could have defended that 3-point line a little better, maybe they could have beat Alabama and gone to the Elite 8. But that was a that was a really good team.
When you play a team that makes 25 threes, it's just not your night. I don't even think you go, hey, we had the wrong strategy. It's like they couldn't miss.
Yeah.
Hit the most threes ever in a tournament game. At 25 threes.
It was crazy.
It was over. The top 5 basketball teams in program history, in the opinion of Deseret News beat writer Jay Drew. We are at the
number
finale.
1. This is it. Drum roll, please.
Number 1, probably no surprise. I know they won the NIT championship in 1951, but this is just I think we got to maybe say the modern era. I'm not exactly sure when that starts, but the 1980-81 team with Danny Ainge, Fred Roberts, they went to the Elite Eight. I think they ran into Ralph Sampson there, but that was the year where Danny Ainge made the great coast-to-coast drive to beat Notre Dame. Ironically, I was actually at the Huntsman Center watching Utah play North Carolina in a NCAA tournament game, and half of the crowd was sitting in there with little TVs or radios listening to Paul James call the BYU game from, I think they were in, was it at Rhode Island, or I'm not exactly
Somewhere
sure.
back east. Somewhere back east.
But then, so that I'm going to say that was until this year the team's obviously as talented and can maybe go farther. But until it does, I'm going to have to go with that 1980-81 team led by Danny Ainge that made it to the Elite Eight.
And if you think about pure talent, Jay, like Danny Ainge, Fred Robertson, Greg Kite played 30 years plus combined in the NBA. Those three, right? And then Steve Trumbo was a superstar in Spain and probably could have played in the NBA as a guy coming off the bench as a rebounder. Steve Craig was the other starter on that team, if I remember right. Balif was on that team, but that team was loaded with NBA talent, and I don't know there's been another team with that much NBA talent until right now. Am I missing a team, Jay, or is that true?
No, I think that's definitely true. There have been some BYU guys that I thought maybe could make it in the NBA, and some that surprised us. Travis Hansen's obviously played a while in the NBA, but that was a team that was just loaded, had everything. Had Devin Durant, had he gone on a mission?
I think, was Devin a freshman?
That same era.
He might have been a freshman too. And if you count him, I think Devin might have been a freshman in 80-81.
He wasn't on the 80-81 team.
No, so was he freshman in 79?
So he must have been on his mission.
Yeah, he must have been on the mission then.
Yeah.
So they had some dudes back in those days though, with Devin and Timo Serlianen. I'm like, there was some talent back in those days.
That's quite a list, Jay. So when we revisit this list in 3 months, do you think this team can jump through all 5 teams that you just laid out and be at number 1?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they've got almost all the ingredients needed. And, this BYU coaching staff's really good. We've seen them make some great adjustments. And, in halftime, the joke is, BYU is the second half team, and there's kind of a reason for that. They're really well coached. And they're always prepared, it feels like. So not the saying that BYU hasn't had great coaches in the past, that they have, but I think the ingredients are there. This team is built for this. And so, I think definitely it's a Final Four team. And I've written that in the past. I think Final Four or bust right now with the talent that they've got assembled. I think that's kind of the bar that they need to get past.
Just before we came on the air, and we'll finish with this one, BYU announcing the addition of 3 giant offensive linemen. Jeff Hansen, a friend of all of ours, put out a quote thinking those 3 could be starters on opening day with an offensive line that already has a lot of experience. So they added like 1,200 pounds in a few minutes. It feels like marching into this offseason with Kalani's extension and what they've retained and what they're getting. Is there a more optimistic time? Can you remember a more optimistic time for BYU football fans?
I really can't, when you think about it. I mean, last year was going in, they had Jake coming back, but I think if you ask most BYU fans now, Bear Bachmeier or Jake Retzlaff, I think Bear has the higher ceiling. I think Bear has a chance to play in the pros. Jake's, we'll see, jury's out, but yeah, I think this, can't remember just a time, maybe when Taysom was moving into his senior year or other. I'm trying to think, but it all goes back to the quarterback, as you know. And when you have a really good quarterback coming back, expectations are high, and they've got the surrounding pieces. I think they need to find a good replacement for Chase Roberts. I think that's still out there. I know they added a kid from Washington that has been injured a lot, but yeah, I think all the ingredients are piling up, and this roster retention's just been amazing to watch. I don't know who's in charge of that, Kalani obviously, but the general manager and all these other people they got, Justin Anderson and people, ought to be commended. This is to keep this team intact as much as possible has been really impressive.
You can read his work in the Deseret News and at Deseret.com, covering the Cougars, golf, and whatever else he's assigned. The 4-time Utah Sportscaster, Sports Writer of the Year.
As of this week, right?
And the 2-time Deseret News Salt Lake Tribune guy. What else are we missing? Are we missing any other bigger awards?
Well, I did win the media golf tournament for the state am. But
that goes to the top. That goes to the top.
I always say that a one-eyed man is king of a blind country, like Rick Majerus used to say.
Yeah, there you go.
Listen, our Deseret News team's going to take it.
On the golf games of my competitors.
Our Deseret News team's going to bounce back this summer. This is going to be a good summer for us. All right.
Yeah, we're going to be ready.
Jay Drew, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you coming on all the time, and we appreciate your talents that you share with Cougar Nation through your writing. So nice job, and thanks for being here.
Always fun. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, there's Jay Drew, and he's been a beat writer for BYU. He's been a beat writer for Utah. He's been here for a long, long time, and you got to have a good beat writer, and I write a lot of fluff pieces and features and stuff, but you've got to have someone who's nails, and Jay is that for the Deseret News and for the state of Utah.
By the way, Mark Johnson says, this is remarkable. He says, had to admit, but I was able to be at the games watching all of those teams that Jay had in his top 5.
Wow.
You've been a fan for a long time, Mark Johnson. Congratulations. That's pretty awesome. Because if you watch that 71-72 team and then all the way up through this 19-20 and then last year, you're a true fan. So we appreciate having you on.
Player retention. I think that was kind of the running theme from Jay as to what he's been most impressed with. Yeah. And they've added some big pieces in the portal that fit specific needs. But getting the guys to come back, probably more so than, I don't know if there's another top 15 team. We'll see what Indiana does once it's all said and done. But that's retained as many as BYU's retained.
Yeah.
I mean, other teams are adding this and that.
Texas just adds like a whole new team every year, but they lose a bunch too.
Yeah, and they get good guys, and they pay for them. And you know what? They're tough to beat. And BYU's going to have to find a way to beat them. But most of BYU's coming back from a 12-2 season. That just seems to bode well.
Yeah, should be good. Should be. Continuity is important. And they did it with the staff, and they've got some left to fill still. But the staff so far, and then with the players, that's a great combo right there to keep things rolling. So
let's talk about Cougar Tribe for a moment.
Yes.
Wise Guys has a new community experience coming. We're excited about it. It's called Cougar Tribe. Cougar Tribe's a community home base where fans can interact all week long, not just Mondays, enjoy exclusive content and get that you can't get anywhere else. You can ask questions, we'll answer them, we'll participate in challenges, interact with each other, take advantage of some cool perks. We'll have dinners together. It's all free to join. This is not a replacement of the Wise Guys. This is additional to the Wise Guys.
That's right. And Cougar Tribes officially launches in another week or so. So we're right at the front door for this. But you can join early during our brief beta pre-launch. Just fill out the quick form using the link that our team is putting into the chat right now. And if you're listening to our podcast, the link to the form is at the top of the show notes. If you fill out the form, later this week you're going to receive an email with instructions for joining. We're excited about a brand new community experience called Cougar Tribe. It's going to bring us all together like never before. And it's going to be really fun. Like we'll have check-in points it's going to be fun. We'll have a lot of chance to get together in person at points during the year as well. So make sure you check that out and join our beta launch.
And some of the biggest sports stars on campus
are involved in this with us. We'll be announcing a bunch of stuff in the next week.
So we look forward to Cougar Tribe. We look forward to you joining us. And as we get rolling, we'll make it super easy. Just hit a button and you're in.
Yes.
That is all coming, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Our campus notes tonight are presented by BYU Pathway Worldwide. BYU Pathway makes truly affordable, fully online, spiritually based college degrees accessible to folks worldwide through greatly reduced tuition, weekly peer gatherings, and English support, helping students earn sooner, increase their income, and deepen their faith at the same time. Learn more at byupathway.edu. Let's start with men's hoops. They are 15-1. Wow.
3-0 in conference. This is the best start ever for BYU. 12 straight wins now. A school record is 17, 87, 88. When I say best start in the Big 12 conference. 17 in a row start the 87-88 team, and then you and I just got completely devastated when they lost to UAB when the two teams in front of them lost.
On. I was on my mission.
How did you lose that game?
I was on my mission, and I heard about that.
It was so sad.
Yeah.
National ranking is 11, down from 9. What in the world?
I don't know how you kill Arizona State, then you go on the road in the Big 12. I don't care who you're playing.
A rivalry game.
But it's a rivalry game. You win that game. I don't even think you trailed but the first 5 minutes of the game. And then you drop 2 spots. You have 5 quad 1 wins, and you drop 2 spots.
That's why it's just dumb. But the net counts more anyhow when it comes to NCAA seeding, and they're still number 9 in the net.
That's good.
In bracketology, they have them as a 3 seed, which kind of would, if you would take the net and just take pure net, they should be like the number 1 3 seed is what they would be. So that makes sense.
And they can get higher, and they're not going to play on Sunday, so there'll always be a little bit of a different
thing. They could lose a spot by doing that, which is what happens then.
Yeah.
So Big 12 this week in the top 25. This is the league of basketball. Arizona continues to be number 1. Iowa State moves up. They're number 2 in the country. Houston is 7, the defending national champs. BYU's 11. Texas Tech is 15. Keep in mind, BYU will travel to Texas Tech this Saturday for a basketball game. Big 12 standings. BYU, Houston, Iowa State, Arizona, they're all 3-0, tied for first place. Utah is tied for last place with Baylor and Kansas State. So we're just going to give you, there was the first and then there was the last.
Yeah, that's not personal. That's just business. We're just letting you know where that goes. As for the big 3, AJ, Richie, and Rob, they've combined for 67.6% of BYU's 1,412 points this season. That's why they're the big 3. They're the best starting trio in college basketball. Other big-time scoring trios per BYU Statsman on X. And appreciate him posting this or her. I thought it was really interesting. 1989, 1990, you have Marty Haas, Andy Toolson, and Steve Schreiner. They were 67.4% for the season. These 3 currently, as mentioned, are 67.6% at the halfway part. And then you got to go a few years back.
Yeah, 49 and 50. That was Joe Nelson, Roland Minson, and Mel Hutchins. Those are some big names in BYU history. They accounted for 67.4% of BYU's points.
Then you come back up to 1988, 1989. Michael Smith, Marty Haas, and Andy Toolson. Those 3 contributed 67.1. So we've never seen what we're seeing right now from 3 players in BYU jerseys. But that's what we're seeing. The Cougars beat the Utes 89-84 in Salt Lake. They were just 6 of 26 on threes. For some reason, BYU can't shoot in that gym.
Yeah.
And they were 19 of 29 on free throws. And this is a good free throw shooting team. And it was just like, is it just the Utes at the Huntsman Center? Is that why all of a sudden they can't hit a shot? Richie had 24 points, had career-high 14 rebounds. We mentioned earlier he's the Relight Athlete of the Week. Rob Wright, 23 points and 6 assists. AJ had 20 and 6 rebounds, his 9th straight game with 20 points. The rematch is coming up a week from Saturday.
It's quick.
January 24th here in Provo. And as mentioned, Richie today, the Big 12 Player of the Week. So that was Saturday, and then they had a bigger night a few days earlier.
Yeah, against Arizona State, 104-76. Richie had 31 points. He was 6 of 8 from 3 and 8 boards. What a week for Richie. Mm-hmm. Rob Wright had 27 points, and AJ DeBonce had 23. It just feels like they're just, for the rest of the season, going to score 20-plus, all 3 of them every night.
It was interesting to watch this week, and you see teams freaking out about AJ, especially the Utes, because they were running 2 guys at him the whole time. And then as soon as they did, it was like Rob was going, okay, I'm going to the hoop.
Yep.
And he got there time and time again. And then Richie's over here. And again, Richie had a cold night shooting up at the U, but he did everything else. And if teams are going to double AJ, and we'll see what the Utes do in 2 weeks, because that was a great strategy, but they lost. So they got to tweak something. But BYU's going to be ready for it.
If other teams do that to Richie Saunders and he has a normal shooting night, so He had 24 and 14 in this game. He's going to have a 40-point game if you keep doubling AJ.
Yeah.
Because Rob will drive and draw a double team, and now you got two guys that are trying to recover from doubling AJ out here. Rob takes you to the hole, and now you guys have rotate. Richie's going to get a bunch of wide open shots. He's going to go off for 40. I don't know if that's a great strategy. It worked the other night because Richie wasn't knocking down as many shots. And I mean, I can't discount that the Utes might do something weird to the rims. I just don't know. I just don't know.
AJ is such a selfless player. There were a few times where I was like, just go shoot it. Turn around, that's your fader, and it'd throw to an open guy, and BYU'd miss the shot, and down the floor would come the Utes. But I kind of waited for him to take over, and he didn't, but he didn't have to. But Rob Wright was hitting one big shot after the other down the stretch on Saturday. So Wednesday night, TCU's coming to town, and TCU is capable of beating any team in this league.
Yes.
That's a 9 o'clock start on ESPN2. Blaine and the guys will have an 8 o'clock start on BYU Radio or on BYU TV and ESPN Plus for the pregame show. And then ESPN2 and BYU Radio have the call. Last year, they just played once. TCU beat them in Fort Worth 71-67. It can't be a trap game because you're in the Big 12, but Texas Tech is looming Saturday, which means Wednesday is very important.
Yeah, and Texas Tech sitting there at number 15 in the country, BYU at number 11. That's at 6 p.m. on ESPN or ESPN2, BYU Radio, of course. Last year, Tech beat them 72-67 in Provo. And Andy Katz lists this as the number one game in college basketball this entire week.
And there's like hundreds of them.
Right. So
maybe 1,000, maybe over 1,000 games this week. This is number one.
Yeah, that tells you. And you know what? This BYU men's team's playing great, but I think everybody expected them to be great. Maybe they're exceeding expectations a little bit. Do you know who's killing expectations? BYU women's basketball team.
The Cougars are 14-3. They're 3-2 in the Big 12. In the Big 12 standings, Texas Tech's 5-0 at number 1. There's a 4-way tie at number 2, and then BYU's next at 6, tied with Arizona State and Oklahoma State. They defeated Houston 79-64 in Houston. Delaney Gibb had 19. Bolani Yusuf had 13 and 7 rebounds. She's really come along. But BYU had 21 turnovers. And turnovers led to their doom at Arizona.
Right. At Arizona defeated them 75-72 down there in Tucson. Delaney had 21 points and 8 assists. But BYU had 27 turnovers. That's 48 turnovers on the road trip. That's the thing that's keeping them from, literally, that's the thing that's kept them from being undefeated in conference play and having a couple of losses in conference play. They've got to figure out how to take care of the ball. That's their Achilles heel right now.
When you think about 27 turnovers in a game you lost by 3 points and it was tied at 72, you're trying to beat a team and you've given them 27 extra possessions in a one-shot finish.
If they can just keep it to 15 or less, they're going to have a lot of success this year. So up next, number 18, Baylor's at BYU Saturday at 2 o'clock. That one's on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio.
Men's volleyball's 2-0. They're ranked number 8 in the country in today's poll, same as where they were last week. Beat St. Francis 3-0 on Friday and 3-0 on Saturday. They were phenomenal, as we expected. UC San Diego's at BYU Friday night, live on the BYU TV app and Big Ten Plus. And then they play again Saturday night, and that one's live on Big Ten Plus and tape delayed on the BYU TV app at 10 p.m. That's just how the TV deal's working with the MPSF.
Yeah.
You can watch our interview with Sean Olmstead from Wise Guys last week at wiseguys.com. He was great. And the guys that he talked about, like A.J. Cottle and company, they were phenomenal in their first BYU games at the Smith Fieldhouse. The place was rocking, and that's the place to be this weekend.
Yeah, it's so fun. Track and field, just getting it going here, winter season indoors. The Weber and State Invitational was this past weekend. The men's distance medley relay, that's Carter Cutting, Jonah Hemuli, and Braden Packard, and Taven Kitchen. They ran a 9:44.49, which is the fastest time in the NCAA this season. That's pretty impressive. And then the women, Paige Rasmussen, she ran the 55 meters in 6.85. That's the second fastest in program history. Zoe Bonds ran the 55 meters in 7.85. That's the sixth fastest time in program history. So a couple of sprinters getting it done on the women's side for BYU. Up next, the men and women are both at the Snake River Open in Pocatello, Idaho, Thursday through Saturday. That's in the Mini Dome in Pokey.
That's a fast bunch. Gymnastics is 1-0. They win the season opener. They're ranked 23 today. Defeated 7th-ranked Oregon State 195.675 to 194.525. They had 4,000 fans at the Marriott Center. Great to see that support. Kylie Iquinto, the only senior on the team, scored a 9.900 on the floor. Up next, they are in the Best of Utah meet tonight with Utah State, Weber State, and Utah at the Maverick Center. And then Boise State's at BYU Friday night at 7 Mountain Time on ESPN+.
And then women's soccer. Jen Rockwood added former Utah midfielder Bella Woods from the transfer portal. As a sophomore, she started all 20 games for the Utes last season. As a freshman, Bella was named to the Big 12 All-Freshman team. BYU reached the Sweet 16 last season and finished ranked number 20. And they were a young team. Now they're adding Bella to this team.
It's going to be big.
Like, I know our expectations are always high. I expect them in a College Cup next year. And Jen wouldn't be mad at me for saying
No,
that.
because she's going to tell us when she comes on in July.
This is what the standard is here. So
Softball, Kaya Fabella and Rita Tavita were named to Softball America's freshman watch list. Fabella was also named to the D1 Softball's D100 freshman watch list. She's 5'9", all-state catcher from Fort Worth, Texas. Tavita's a 5'10" pitcher from West Jordan, Utah. Last year's Utah Gatorade Player of the Year. The Cougars open the season coming up February 5th against Tennessee. Next week, head coach Gordon Eakin will be back on the Wise Guys to preview the team and their big home run hitters back, and they are must-see TV and must-see live at Gail Miller Field. TV and live.
They mash the ball. So our baseball team first pitch fundraising dinner. It's coming up Thursday, January 22nd. The featured speakers include big leaguers Justin Sterner and Daniel Sheeman. You can purchase tickets at Campus. So here it's CAMP Camps CUI.active.com. So CAMPSCUI.active.com. ACTIVE.com.
That you show up, have a good dinner, you hang out with the team, and you hear from Justin. And Schneeman had a great year with the Guardians last year. So that's a great first pitch fundraising dinner coming up on January 22nd. And then they start practice, and then they get ready for their season, which is just around the corner. Golf, the 25th ranked men are at the Arizona Collegiate in Tucson, Arizona, coming up January 26th and 27th. The women are at the Collegiate Invitational in Guadalajara, Mexico. Of course they are. January 30th and 31st. We picked the wrong sports to.
I know.
You know, we could go to Mexico and cover that.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice, sunny, and warm there.
I wouldn't even mind going to Tucson this time of year. It's so cold out. And if it's going to be cold, could it please snow? But I'm wearing a white shirt because I want it to snow.
Yeah, let it snow in the mountains.
So, PGA Tour, Sony Open, Thursday through Sunday, the Honolulu Golf Channel. And we got former Cougar
I love
Patrick
having
Fishburne.
golf. Yeah.
He's in the field. You can see our Wise Guys interview with Patrick at wiseguys.com. He did a great job. Brooks Koepka is back on the PGA Tour after leaving the Live Golf Tour. What does this have to do with the Wise Guys? Well, BYU grad Brian Rolap is the new CEO of the PGA Tour, and he's briefly opened the door for former tour players to return with significant financial penalty. Without significant
No, they get with one.
Oh, so they come back but they have to pay a penalty?
They got to pay a bunch. They got to surrender a lot of potential earnings. It's not an easy way back. And Koepka, I think the penalty, if it all worked out where he was successful but missed out on some things, it might cost him $70 million. But the payoff is he's back on tour and he can make more than that moving forward. So they said, hey, look, yes, some of the big names who have won majors, they can come back, but here's the penalty. And then it has to be worth it to you.
Okay, I was confused by all of that. That's crazy.
But he's given them the option to do it and trying to, he's trying to save the PGA Tour. And there are BYU guys everywhere. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, they are everywhere.
Yeah, the head guy of Live's a BYU guy. So, I mean, it's like, well, maybe they can work it out. But Koepka said, yeah, it's worth it to me to get back, which tells you everything.
How about a BYU guy heading up the PGA Tour? And one other thing that's a professional sport but is related to BYU is that the NFL season's winding down. We have some Cougars in the NFL, so let's touch that as part of our campus notes. And that's Saturday, the Niners and Fred Warner, who's still on the IR. I think if they make it one more game, Fred might be coming back.
I read where he worked out today off to the side, but it was the first time that he was
There you go.
doing some stuff. They might have to go. They might have to get to the Super Bowl.
I think they win this one, and maybe. So anyhow, they're at the Seahawks, and the Bills are at the Broncos. That's Saturday.
That's tough sledding.
Right. And then
there.
Sunday, the Rams with Puka Nacua. He just keeps doing it. They're at the Bears. The Texans, Steelers winner tonight are at the Patriots with Kairos Tonga. Puka Nacua, by the way, first team All-Pro. Best receiver in the National Football League. So we're going to include that in campus notes just because those guys, Puka and Fred and Kairos and that whole group have ties to BYU. So that's part of our campus notes today.
Those campus notes are presented by BYU Pathway Worldwide. Learn how you can improve your life through an affordable and convenient college education at byupathway.edu. What's amazing is now it takes us almost a half hour to get through campus
There's
notes.
so much going on, and there's so much good.
And there's so much
So
winning.
much good.
So much winning and so many fascinating student athletes. So that's a tribute to all of them.
That's right. So January 12th on this day.
A lot of things happened on this day.
Yeah, let's go all the way back to 1906 and start there. The Football Rules Committee legalized the forward pass.
That happened today. Now think of the impact on the game today, on BYU and its illustrious history of being able to actually throw the football. There was a time where you couldn't throw it.
Yep.
You just hand off the rock.
So much more exciting. I'm glad they did that.
That was a big day in 1906.
It made my job in the position I played a lot better.
Yeah.
Other than just handing it off. I could think quarterbacks ran a lot back in those days, though.
They had to. 1920, baseball teams agree to allow the worst teams to pick first in the draft.
That was in 1920.
So they decided, you know what? The White Sox, why don't you go first because you're the worst.
You're the worst.
As opposed to the Yankees picking every year. Picking first. So that's where fairness came into the game.
1920. 1939, Timely Comics is formed in New York, and it later became Marvel Comics.
How about that?
Which Marvel has a huge impact on the motion picture industry these days, for sure.
Think of the value of that. 1946, on this day, the Cleveland Rams announced they're moving to Los Angeles. I didn't know the Rams came from Cleveland.
Think about it. It used to be the Brooklyn Dodgers, not the LA Dodgers. All kinds of crazy moves like that. The Cleveland Rams moved to LA.
Wanted better weather.
Yeah. 1958, the NCAA adds the 2-point conversion for football.
Now that's significant.
That's 58. That's like less further back than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
So 2-point conversion got added.
1969, on this day, the New York Jets beat the Baltimore Colts in Super Bowl III, and Joe Namath is named the MVP.
And he called it. He said they were going to win.
We're going to hear from Joe Namath.
And then Joe Namath did a pantyhose commercial not that long after that.
The world was never the same.
Well, yeah, whatever they'll pay me for, I will do. That was that was his theme. So, 1981, the show Dynasty premiered on ABC.
Yeah, there was their spinoff of Dallas. They were trying to have something of their own. Dallas was on CBS, and it's like, then they came up with a rival, Dynasty. 1995, on this day, the O.J. Simpson murder trial begins in Los Angeles. What a weird time that was.
Like, people were glued to their televisions watching the O.J. trial.
Yeah.
Do you remember the white Bronco driving around town with police cars just falling asleep?
During the NBA plaff game.
So
it
crazy.
was like, I equate it to COVID.
Right.
Because it's this time where it was like, it was so strange and it affected so many people. But I remember the day the verdict was announced, and I announced it on the radio just seconds after they did that in Vegas. But this is the day when that whole thing started, 1995.
I still remember like quotes like, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit.
Yeah, and they were arguing things with, all of a sudden, all the suspects became like stars.
Crazy.
Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, the guy that stayed at his house for like everything.
Yeah, then he's got a show, and anyway, it all started, the murder trial started today.
That was the beginning of reality shows.
Yeah, and that was the biggest one.
Unbelievable. So let's do January 12th birthdays.
Yeah, there's better news.
And let's start with Smokin' Joe Frazier, 1944, the world championship boxer, was born on this day.
1951, Rush Limbaugh was born this day.
In 1960, the jumping bean and great dunker Dominique Wilkins was born on this day.
What was his nickname?
Let's see, what was Dominique
Wilkins?
It was Human Highlight Film. What was he? Was it Dominique the Human Highlight Film?
It was something.
Yeah, he was
something. I can't.
Man, could he dunk the ball? Atlanta Hawks.
1964, Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and never mind Jeff Bezos. How has Amazon changed your life?
Oh my goodness!
It's changed it significantly.
It changed how much I have to pay.
Stuff comes to our house every day. I don't even know what it is.
Every day that just shows up on our front porch that I didn't even know was coming.
What a genius those guys were with, hey, you know what? If we can get them to go to the mall is one thing. We can bring the mall to them.
Let's just bring it.
We got them. January 12th deaths on this day in 1976.
Yeah, Agatha Christie, the writer, passed away on this day.
2001, Bill Hewlett, co-founder of Hewlett-Packard. And you talk about what computers have done.
Yeah, they changed the world. 2018, Keith Jackson, who was my childhood voice of college football, the great football announcer, passed away on this day in 2018.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Our Wise Guys inspirational quote of the week is from Joe Namath, who said,
"To be a leader, you have to make people want to follow you, and nobody wants to follow someone who doesn't know where he's going."
Isn't that the truth?
That's so smart.
If you're looking around, you're at a family reunion, right, and you're wandering around Disneyland, and there's one person who's in charge of where dinner is,
it's great.
You're following
You're
them.
the leader.
But what's worse is when you look around and no one knows which way to go.
You're like the two buzzards in the Jungle Book. I don't know. What do you want to do? They just sit there and nobody knows
All
what
day
they want to
long.
do. You got to have a leader. So,
all right, and here's a bonus quote.
bonus quote from Joe Namath. "I got news for you. We're going to win the game. I guarantee it."
I guarantee it.
And that was his Super Bowl guarantee, and they went on to win that. And then he launched his career. He was the first and biggest of the great promotion guys that everybody wanted to sign him up to schlep their stuff for him, including pantyhose.
The New York Jets made him famous. He played at Alabama, but that was back when it was big. But
Kenny Stabler played at Bama. Joe Namath played at Bama.
you get to the Super Bowl and you win it.
That's what it was all about.
And you make the guarantee.
And the AFL was supposed to be the kind of like, remember, because the Jets were from the old AFL, and it was like, they're not as good. Man, he did it.
Our thanks to Jay Drew, beat writer for the Deseret News, covers BYU football and basketball. A great interview with him. We're able to jump a wide range of topics that he has his insight on, and we asked him his opinion about some of that stuff. We like to find out what people think.
Yeah, especially some of this falls that closely and so intimately tied to the program. So how about next week? We got, as you already mentioned, Gordon Eakin, BYU softball coach, will be in the house. John Baldery, BYU Pathway Worldwide.
Yeah, wait till you hear what Pathway is doing.
Great stories.
Yeah.
And then Jared Stewart of Tribe House is going to come on and explain what Cougar Tribe is going to do for all of us. So we're going to do a big reveal next week on the show with Jared Stewart.
And it's going to be free for you to join Cougar Tribe, and we think it'll be fun. It'll be cool. Here's where you can find us this week. Blaine will be on Countdown to Tip Off. Is that what that show's called?
I think so. Countdown, yeah.
Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time on BYU TV. And
the post game afterwards.
And the post game after. Yeah. And then I'm in the Deseret News this week. Got a story coming out in about an hour and a half on the Big Three, the other Big Three. It's called, I think, the Big Three Part 2.
That's right. Exactly.
So that's tonight at Deseret.com. Look for that one. Shout outs to a couple of new mission presidents for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Two of our good friends and their wives.
And both have sat in this chair right here next to me on this show. So you can go back and watch their interviews. Tom and Lori Homo, called to lead the Oakland San Francisco mission. Remember, Tom won 4 Super Bowls as a player or coach with the Niners, so he's going to be right at home in the Bay.
Robbie and Karen Bosco called to lead the Ohio Columbus mission. And when I thought of Robbie and Ohio, I thought of one thing. I thought of the 1985 Citrus Bowl against Ohio State, and then Robbie threw a pick 6 so the Buckeyes could win that game, and so they'll be okay with him going back there.
They'll like him.
They'll go, hey, nice pass.
You know what, though? He can flash his 1984 national championship ring at him and say, this.
And he better wear it. He should wear it around because it's like, hey, didn't we play you in the Citrus Bowl? Yeah. Here's my championship ring.
Right there.
You guys have some, and I got one.
In their face in Columbus. So, congrats and to Tom and Lori and to Robbie and Karen, dear friends of ours and yours. It's a great honor to be able to go do that, serve as mission presidents. And we're wishing them the best. Their 3-year assignments start on July 1st. And, I texted them both, said, hey, you guys are going to be great. And we'll have them both on 3 years from
from when they leave. We'll have them back.
Yeah.
Say, hey, how'd it go?
Have them on the show and they can give us a review. So
Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, supplies plus support. Find out more at bradyplus.com.
And by Mountain America Credit Union, empowering dreams for over 80 years. Find out what they can do for you at macu.com.
By Eddie, HR and payroll software built for small businesses. See how Eddie can serve your team at eddie.com.
And our Relight Athlete of the Week is presented by Redmond. The secret is in the salt. Learn what it can do for you at redmond.com. Our Relight Athlete of the Week for this week is Richie Saunders.
What a great week he had. Who will it be next week? Well, all those games and stuff are in front of us. Somebody's going to be great. Yeah. And then we're going to spotlight them with our Relight Athlete of the Week. Wise Guys is distributed by the Deseret News. We look forward to Wednesday night, BYU and TCU, and then into another big sports weekend. And we'll be back next Monday.
Yeah, we'll see it. We'll see you Wednesday. Well, Dave will see you all week in the paper. Only it's electronic these days.
Yeah.
Deseret.
That way you don't get the
right.
newsprint.
You don't get
on
newsprint in your hands. And then we'll see you next Monday night.
Thanks, everybody.